How much would you pay for a manuscript without knowing the author, the date it was written, or even the language it was written? That is the Voynich manuscript, one of the most mysterious manuscripts in history. But on this video, we will concentrate on the historical manuscripts that exist, are readable, and were bought by very rich people. The most expensive manuscripts.
The Birds of America was bought for $11.7 million. It is one of 119 complete copies known to exist. The copy originally was owned by the 4th Duke of Portland. During 1768, it was written by John James Audubon between 1827 and 1838. Mr. William Shakespeare's Comedies, Histories, and Tragedies, bought by Stefan Lowenthal for $11.9 million. It's the first folio edition with autographed letter of authentication by Edmund Malone, previously owned by Mills College. Was written by William Shakespeare in 1623. Acts of Congress bought by the Mount Vernon Ladies Association for $13 million. George Washington's personal copy of a printed edition of the Constitution and Bill of Rights, with annotations in his own hand in 1789. The Einstein-Besso manuscript by an unknown buyer was sold for $15.5 million. The 54-page manuscript written jointly by Albert Einstein and Michele Besso is one of only 2 surviving manuscripts documenting the genesis of general relativity. It was written by Albert Einstein and Michele Besso circa 1912 and 1913. The Waldseemüller map. It was bought by the Library of Congress for $16.6 million. It's the only surviving copy of the first map to use the name America, and showing that the Americas were separated from Asia by the Pacific Ocean. Drawn by Martin Waldseemüller in the year 1507. The Birds of America sold to a London art dealer, Michael Tollemache, for $16.2 million. It is one of 119 complete copies known to exist. Copy originally owned by Henry Witham from 1779 to 1844. It was written by John James Audubon in 1827. It is an illustrated folio from the Shahnameh of Shah Tahmasp, bought by an unknown buyer for $16.5 million. From the illustrated manuscript of Ferdowsi's epic poem presented by Tahmasp to Selim II. Illustration attributed to A.Q.A. Merak. Previously owned by Edmund de Rothschild and Arthur Houghton Jr., it was written by Ferdowsi circa 1525 and 1535. The Rothschild Prayer Book was bought by Cary Stokes for $17.5 million. It's an illuminated book of hours, once in the collections of Anselm Salomon von Rothschild from 1803 to 1874 and his descendants, written circa 1505-1510. The Bay Psalm Book, bought by David Rubenstein for a whopping $18.6 million. It is the first book printed in what is now the United States. It was originally owned by the Old South Church. It was written in 1640. The St. Cuthbert Gospel was sold to the British Library for $19 million. It is a pocket gospel book that was buried with St. Cuthbert in 687, removed from his coffin in 1104, and kept at Durham Cathedral, subsequently owned by Thomas Allen and the English Jesuit College. Book of Tang was bought by an unknown buyer for $20.7 million. The Book of Tang in detailed sections with glosses by Stonewall Studio. It's a woodblock printed edition. Copy previously owned by Cao Kun in 1862. It was written in the 1230. The Magna Carta bought by David Rubenstein for $31.3 million. It's a 1297 exemplification of the 1216 Charter, held by the Brudenell family and later the Perot Foundation. It was written in 1297. The Gospels of Henry the Lion, bought by the German government for $35.8 million. It is an illuminated gospel book commissioned by Henry the Lion, 1129, for use in Brunswick Cathedral. It was written by order of Saint Benedict in 1175. Sherborne Misselbouth, bought by the British Library for $36.5 million. the illuminated missal in use at Sherborne Abbey, chiefly illuminated by John Cipher, was previously owned by Ralph Percy, 12th Duke of Northumberland, written in the early 15th century. The Codex, Sassoon 1053, was sold to Alfred H. Moses for the Museum of the Jewish People for $38.1 million. It is a copy of the Hebrew Bible that is contemporary to the Aleppo Codex and is almost complete and a century older than the Leningrad Codex, written in late 9th century. Letter from Zheng Gong to his friend, sold for 40.3 million S, written by Wang Zhongjun, believed to be the only surviving original work by the Song Dynasty scholar, written on the back of a sheet of paper used for woodblock printing. Previously owned by Xiang Yuanbian, was written by Zheng Gong, circa 1080. The Book of Mormon sold for 43.5 million S to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Printer's manuscript. Copy of original manuscript produced by Oliver Cowdery, originally owned by David Whitmer, was written by Joseph Smith, 1830. Letters from Zhao Mengfu to his friend Guo Tianxi sold for 45.5 million S to an unknown buyer. 2 letters sold as a set from Yuan Dynasty artist Zhao Mengfu to his friend. It was written by Zhao Mengfu, 1254. The United States Constitution sold to Kenneth C. Griffin for 48.6 million. It's the first printing, previously owned by S. Howard Goldman, Founding Fathers of the United States at the Constitutional Convention, 1787. The Codex Leicester, both by Bill Let's Help the Poor Gates, for 63.3 million S, that could have helped many people. It is notebook comprising a collection of scientific writings by Leonardo da Vinci in his own hand. Previously owned by Giuseppe Gezzi, Thomas Coke, 1st Earl of Leicester, and Armand Hammer, was written by Leonardo da Vinci, 1500s.